I want us to look at this story that the Trade and Industry Cabinet Secretary Peter Munya is saying that starting the 1st of July 2019, cars that are beyond 8 years will not be allowed into the country as long as they are 1500 cc going up. And he says that the intention is to ensure that we promote, of course, conserve the environment. Yes. Is it to preserve or to conserve the environment, and also to ensure that progressively we're able to manufacture our own motor vehicles. First of all, what's your reaction about this?
Well, I don't know which technical information they're using, because the higher the capacity, the longer the period the car can sustain itself on the road. For example, if you have a 1300 cc vehicle, compared to my 3000 cc vehicle, mine can even be 20 years, but it's still more efficient than yours, which is 5 years. So I don't know, technically, it's yet to explain to us. And number two, I'm not seeing direct benefit that we're going to get by just stopping people from importing these vehicles. Just by stopping them and making it more expensive, because it means you'll make it more expensive, but even the local equivalent does not necessarily seem to meet to assist in terms of you know, we are actually making Kenyans not buy cars. Yeah, because many of these vehicles are not as bad as they say. You go even to places like Uganda, you still get a vehicle which is more than 12 years, and people are still driving them. Personally, I have a vehicle which is 25 years old.
25 years?
I bought it new here, so I did not import. And I'm still on the road up to now. Was it 1993. Wow. I remember 22nd of February, 1993.
Oh, so it's 26 years in 2 weeks' time.
Oh yes, I did not know, yes. And I've done about 400,000 kilometers. And it's still on the road, and it's doing better than some of the vehicles that we offloading them. So I think Mheshimiwa Munya should give us what is the technical advice that is getting in terms of a vehicle. The higher the capacity, the longer is the vehicle likely to do well without polluting the environment.
Okay, but he says that the policy has several other proposals, including more incentives to local manufacturers to make new and affordable cars for the local market. And people are wondering, who are these local manufacturers that we have?
That's a question I had. Who are the local? Because the farthest I know we usually go is to just assemble. All these other parts come from outside. Unless probably Munya is saying, and I'm really not saying it can't happen, unless you're telling us there is there's a plan to start building a local car, which can be understood. But you know, when you are talking about environment, you know, all the best. I mean, this is where the world is going to try and conserve, you know, the environment and do away with greenhouse emissions. That can all be understood. But then again, you have to ask, like Waziri is saying, what's the technical element behind it? Right. Are we just, you know, when you say a car that is 5 years old, are we trying to aim and get the newer cars which we've been told they are efficient? And if that is the case, what happens when the world is starting to move to electric cars? Will still that be the case? So I think Waziri, you're right when you're questioning the technical aspect behind this thing, because it would make sense. Right now, I know cars which the very high cc that now they are using, there's petrol on one end and they are hybrids. Yes. And they are actually very clean. So what happens, I mean, if we don't have a very good technical well spread thought out behind this, then it would mean, you know, we are just playing around, you know. It will catch up with us again.
I think before you respond, when you look at the government and when they're coming with such proposals, I remember that the 17th of January we hosted CS Munya here, and he elaborately spoke about this, and he was talking about, first of all, the conservation of the environment, bringing local manufacturers into the country, and his was very specific that starting July 2019, a 5-year limit, and then next year a 3-year limit. the following year, I think it was 1 year limit.
Yeah.
And then by 2022, it would be 0 years, so that you have to import a new car. I don't know how does this help, even as you want to invite car manufacturers to come and invest into the country. Does it help in as far as creating job opportunities, and how immediate can you get such kind of returns?
I think as a country, if I want to respond to this one, I would say that you don't form a wedding committee until you have a bride. You don't start constituting a wedding committee and looking for a preacher who will preach, who will be the master of ceremony, until you have secured a bride. Because now, what my good friend Munya is telling us, that is a very good friend of mine, is that after we do this now, we'll encourage local manufacturers to start manufacturing cars. I think we should first start with the local manufacturers starting manufacturing cars, and now we come to this directive, which should start first. One, we listen to Kenyans on the streets. I think we as leaders and government, at times we make directives and decisions not considering the economic status of our people. You know, I'm not trying to think of Westerns. I'm trying to think of where I come from and look at a route that takes me home, and the cars that they can afford to take their people home in that route. I don't want to think about Westerns. I don't want to think about Nairobi. I want to think about my village and the people who learn matatus there that are so important, and the cars that they can afford. It's the same thing when we say we don't want counterfeits in this country, we don't want Mutumba clothes in this country, we don't want Mutumba shoes in this country. We make so many decisions in that the floor buildings in Nairobi, not thinking about the economic status of our people. If I look at private car secondary importers, they were saying when they paid a courtesy call to the president, they said that so far last year only they paid taxes worth 49 billion to this country. 49 billion to this country. So as a country that cares about development and its economy, the players should sit down and ask, these 49 billion we are blocking from the economy of this country, from the taxes of this country. How are we prepared to seal this all? Have we consulted and say now as a country that is suffering low income, and I was seeing KLA being crucified for not collecting enough taxes to sustain the budget. And now we are cruising off another 49 billion with reasons that I can't explain so much. If you look at the economic status of this country, I think this is a very good idea when we talk about the environment. But we are not yet there. The debate we should have now with these importers is now that we have 49 billion taxes. How much money did you make to pay 49 billion? You made a lot of money. Your social corporate responsibility towards the environment, because we are the people importing these old cars. What did you do about the environment after you made all this money? That's the kind of discussion we should be having until a time now when we can manufacture our own cars that the Kenyans can afford to buy a car.
Is it a situation of just making life expensive for the Kenyan?
But there's some before Waziri comes in. You know, actually, it may work the other way, like Mweshimo is saying. It may actually not be advantageous, because if you set up this bar too high, Mweshimo will not sell the car old junk he has. He'll try and keep it as much as possible. And by the way, he will be so abused by spare parts, because that's what he'll be buying. And spare parts really, he will just make sure the car, which is not efficient, is on the road longer than having a cleaner car. So you also need to look at it in those ways. By the way, if we allow people not to bring in cars, they will hold on to the cars that they have.
And they'll be too old.
They'll be too old. You will have people driving 25, 30-year-old cars.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Because now you've closed the conduit where they should bring newer cars. So I think it is also good to set up a very good incentive. Yes, let us continue, you know, assembling these cars, but also give an incentive to people who are buying newer cars. And I think that would work really well.
Mutumba was in Cuba. I was in Cuba where there has been an embargo for a very long time. So they only use very old cars. So the environment is very clean. Because they have retained, if you go to Cuba, you'll be told this car is 50 years old. They use the classics, very old. So now the environment is very clean. They are not buying new ones, but they continue with the old ones forever.
Okay, you know, you had him calling my car a junk.
Should be the true.
So yours is a classic.
Oh yes, a classic. But you know, Sam, what's happening is that I think Mheshimiwa Munya needs to travel around Africa and ask himself, go here to Ethiopia, you find vehicles which are almost 60 years old.
That's
wow. So what we should be asking ourselves, Kenyans have been very entrepreneurial in terms of trying to go for new cars and so forth. And in the process, we've been facilitating other services apart from the 45 billion Mheshimiwa is talking about. Think about the linkages, the miraa that comes from Meru, and many other services that we provide to Kenyans. We will be stopping them. It will be expensive to travel, and then what you have said, the environment will be polluted by us using all the cars instead of getting second-hand cars from elsewhere.